but the president does have a point there. If you look at the World Cup men's revenue, it's in the billions, and they split up the pot. It's a much bigger pot. Women's World Cup revenue, much, much smaller, and they have a smaller pot to divide it up with. But the distinction is that the U.S. Soccer Federation, the women do actually make more revenue, and they get paid less, so that's their lawyer's fault. They negotiated a horrible deal, and they need to renegotiate that immediately. Yeah. The point is, though, is that the women are not helping their case by their behavior. If you go out and you disparage the president, you act in unpatriotic ways, and then complain about not getting paid equally, well, what do you think is going to happen? People aren't going to watch.
No, but they get on talk shows.
Many people this weekend who said, I love soccer. I'm not watching the U.S. women because I didn't like what they said. That means the ad revenue comes down. That means their overall revenue comes down, and they can't divvy up the same amount of money.
To be clear, Fox's Jesse Waters is saying that the World Cup winning women's national team isn't helping their case for equal pay because they've criticized the president. Notwithstanding the fact that these two things are completely unrelated, that women could both want pay parity in the United States in 2019 and dislike a president who is a living, breathing testament to greed and corruption, according to Fox News, if you want just equality, then you first have to bend the knee to our dear leader. It's only then that a four-time World Cup winning team might deserve not more, but equal pay to the men. Now, to Waters' credit, he rightly points out that the women do generate more revenue than the men's team. Between fiscal 2015 and 2016, the women's team generated $9 million in net revenue. By contrast, from fiscal 2015 to 2016, the men's team generated just over $3 million in net revenue. And according to the women's lawsuit against the U.S. Soccer Federation, women stand to earn only 38% of the compensation of similarly situated men's national team players. However, whereas Waters claimed that the deal was the direct result of poor negotiation by their lawyers, that's only half the story. In reality, this agreement was the best that the women's team's union could do without going on strike. In other words, you'd have to literally ask this world championship caliber team not to play soccer to try to get more money. They'd have had to go on strike in a year that they won the World Cup, and somehow that would have been leverage for a pay raise, not winning a World Cup? So Fox can try and absolve the U.S. Soccer Federation until it's blue in the face, but the fact that we're even talking about this now is proof that not going on strike and actually winning the World Cup gives them a lot more leverage than fading into the background would. But clearly, this Fox segment isn't about the nuances of their negotiated deals, it's about this notion that in order to get what they deserve, that the women's team isn't allowed to criticize the Republican president. So weird how the party of free speech only approves of it when it's on their terms. And look, not to be overly PC, but Jesse Waters telling these women that their behavior is inappropriate is the definition of sexism. To be unequivocally clear, women should not have to behave in any certain way to achieve pay parity with their male counterparts, with a team that can't even manage to qualify for the tournament that the women's team have won on 4 separate occasions. Waters literally says that disparaging the president is acting in an unpatriotic way, but he couldn't be more wrong. Notwithstanding just how much this administration deserves it, being able to criticize our government is patriotic, is what makes this country great. The right might think that they've laid claim to the entire notion of patriotism in this country, but the fact is that they only want it on their terms for their politicians and their agenda. So they can call it patriotism or frankly whatever they'd like to call it, but it's nothing more than partisan hackery. And the worst part about all of this is that Republicans like Waters are just defending a bad faith attack by Trump. The entire feud was started when Rapinoe was asked if she'd visit the White House, which she was decidedly against, and that's her prerogative, what with compulsory ring kissing not quite yet the law of the land. But then Trump took to Twitter to say that Meghan should win before she talks, and that win or lose, Meghan should never disrespect our country, the White House, or our flag. And this is classic lazy misdirection. Yes, Megan Rapinoe was the first white athlete and first female athlete to kneel during the national anthem in solidarity with Colin Kaepernick, but dear God, how many times do we have to say this? They aren't protesting the flag, they're protesting police brutality in this country. But of course, hearkening right back to the GOP's love for shallow displays of patriotism, they'll just keep claiming that she hates the flag instead because their arguments aren't able to stand on merit. Because clearly, the American World Cup star who scored the championship-winning goal, took home the Golden Boot and the Golden Ball, has the courage to speak out for minorities suffering from systemic racism, hates our country. This, according to our president, elbow deep in a bucket of KFC, fresh off cooperating with a foreign power to influence our last election, and then obstructing justice on 10 separate occasions to cover it up. Got it. So something tells me that if we're really qualifying anyone's behavior here, it's not Megan Rapinoe who needs to change hers.